Okay, so what we're going to be doing is making our pulley. We have our setup shaft and these bushings here milled away so we can get a little bit closer. The main thing here is right here. We're an 19-inch pulley, and the hubs are 1 inch in. Okay, so you can see the 1 inch from the top. Okay, so that's what we're going to be setting up. Okay, so I have 2 of these. I push these rings on. Sometimes they're a little snug, so sometimes you gotta die grind it out, but you want to make sure it's pretty good. And you also want to make sure that these fit in these pulleys. It's about 5 thou clearance. So I'm just going to give these a tack to kind of keep them in place. Okay. Now this is a taper lock for people who don't know. What happens is this wedges inside this taper and it compresses the bore diameter, and to release, I'm going to put this in here too, to release the taper, these are the jacking bolts. So this hole's through and that one's threaded. This one's threaded and it'll push the, you can see it's pushing the tapered insert off. Okay, so I just made up a Allen key to a screwdriver here. So you want these normally aren't installed, but we're just gonna keep them in place so we don't get spattering. So I'm gonna slide this on, line my key up. The first one doesn't really matter. Okay, easy tight, but we need it to be snug enough that it's gonna lock on the shaft. If you don't put this on nice and tight, what will happen is this is going to be bent, and when we tack it inside our roller, it's going to actually bend the shaft. So this is kind of important to set this up this way, and it's important to make sure this fits through your roller as well. So now that they're kind of all snug, I'm going to work my way around. Okay, making sure that these are not touching. Okay, those are just there, and now it's locked in. Okay. Okay, so we're 1 inch in off the edge right there. So so we're around 17 inches. Again, it's not going to matter. It's not going to be an exact thing. What matters is that we're not way off. Okay, and I'm going to double check my roller too, because the roller might be 1/8 of an inch bigger. But again, that won't really matter. Okay, so we're going to double check that we're 17 inches. You know. Okay, close enough. The rollers are 19. What are these? They're probably 19 1/4. So that's a bit big. We have to cut a little bit off. So I'll come back and I'll show you that. 19 inches. So now we're going to slide the shaft in here. This is why it's important that these are not super tight. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set the distance in on either end. Okay. Again. So that's 7/16. 7/16. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to tack everything in place. So I'm going to and you want to try to get it in as many places as you can. See, I've tacked it in 4 places in there. Okay, and I made sure to tack the hub and everything inside there. So I'm going to do this side. Okay. So to do that, we're gonna loosen these. And the reason you want to pull them out before you weld it, obviously you can't get in there with a welder, but the other thing is this is going to expand when we weld it, so it's going to open up the bore and it's going to give us some issues. So we've loosened these off. Now we're going to turn these in. Okay. And it's going to pop that out. Okay, so you see it pop out there. So what'll end up happening, I'll do that on both sides and push the shaft through. Okay. Pop this out. And we're going to weld it. Okay, so here's our Here's our bore. Now what we're going to do when we go to weld this is weld the collar in, okay? So now what we want to do is I'm just going to put some anti-spatter on this, okay? You don't want to get it too crazy, but you want to, you know, get it inside the bore, especially because we don't want this to be all covered in spatter, because it's going to be important. Okay, I'm going to do the same to the other one. This is just some nozzle dip. Okay. Probably not a bad idea to just like put that in the threads. Okay. It's going to melt out when we go to weld it, but main thing's the bore. Okay, so now I'm just going to weld that out, and I'll show you that. And you don't want to set up with a bunch of spatter either, right? So okay, so nice and easy like that. Okay. Don't want the weld too high, because what will end up happening is it'll interfere with that bore as well. Okay. So now that we know they're like we were set up where it doesn't have a bunch of spatter, now the next step's going to be put the proper hubs in. Okay, and we're going to turn the taper on the roller, but you know, you can see how you don't want that weld to be too big. Cool. Okay, so now that we've welded the pulley bushings in, we have to clean it all out with brake clean, let it cool down, clean it all out with brake clean, and then we're going to assemble our shaft. Okay, now you don't assemble these with any anti-seize. Okay, if we leave the nozzle dip inside the bushings, what'll end up happening is it'll tighten too much down on the shaft. It'll be hard to take off if you need to. But now that you're ready to turn the taper, put your bushings in on the final position of the shaft, okay? And then you turn the taper in, and then you don't have to take the bushings out anymore, because it's set for the position of the shaft. So it's very important, so it doesn't create a lot of over processing. So when it's been all cleaned off, brake cleaned, put the bushings in, assemble the shaft and the roller to the final position, turn the taper, and it's good to go.